Okay, so now we will see the VisualAge update.
Good morning. Boy, it's exciting to be on first thing on the first morning. Well, almost first thing, just after some talk. I'm here to talk about the VA Smalltalk product and give you an update. Can't hear me. Is it turned on? Well, it seems to be. It's green.
Wait, we will just check.
But
Say something so that we...
there is something in the back room that needs to be done. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes. You can project your voice a bit. It's okay if you project your voice, but
I shall project my voice and not use that. Suzanne and Neil, I will rely on you to wave your hand if you can't hear back there. And we shall proceed. VA Smalltalk update. So I've been working with Smalltalk since I guess 1988. I've been with Instantiation since 2005. And I am going to talk about our new product today. So first, just to, for those of you who may not be familiar with Instantiations, I wanted to just say that Instantiations has been around in various guises for a very long time. The current version of Instantiations was incorporated in 2010, and it was done to focus exclusively on Smalltalk. So we have Smalltalk products and nothing else. We've been successful in increasing our users every year since we were incorporated as a Smalltalk company, and our revenue grows year to year, so that means that we can employ more engineers and build more product. We've increased our permanent staff, and we also use contractors to sort of fill in the gaps. In addition to our main development activities, we have a number of sort of non-mainstream development activities, including university outreach. We're working with Alexander Bergal and his team at the University of Chile right now to Fort Rosal, to VA Smalltalk. We worked with the Hasso-Plattner Institute in the past on projects. We attend conferences. I go to 3 conferences a year in the U.S. and Europe and South America. We have a Google group that is for user-to-user interaction, and it's mirrored into the Smalltalk Nabble group on Forum World Smalltalk. When we moved to the Google group, we couldn't migrate all of our old forum entries, so we froze the old forum and made it read-only, and you can still access historical information there. And finally, we have produced ourselves and indirectly through James Robertson a number of videos and podcasts. Smalltalk for You has now probably close to 100 short videos on the use of VA Smalltalk that you can access through our website, or you can access directly on YouTube. And we have other videos that you can access through our website. So, now the good stuff. We have a new release. It's available today. It's available now. Some small number of people discovered it was going to be available today because we actually made it live on Friday. So some people got it a little early, but today is the official announcement day. And there's a lot of what we think is exciting content in this release. And one is our GUI look and feel. We are very excited about our new text editor. that's based on Scintilla. This is a complete redesign of our default text editor. We built it on top of the Scintilla open source module, and we integrated it into VA Smalltalk in such a way that it's API compatible with our pre-existing CW text editor. So it means that it's very easy just to choose either to use the new Scintilla editor or the old CW text editor, whichever meets your needs. Of course, Scintilla has a lot more capability than our old text editor widget, and that's all exposed through Smalltalk classes. The entire Scintilla API is exposed as of version 3.3 of Scintilla. So the important thing is you can use this Scintilla widget in your applications, not just, it's not just for us to use. And it does provide a lot of new interesting capability. We use it internally to build our browsers, our inspectors, our workspaces, and several other things. Some of the things that you get are multiple undo redo. We've always had undo redo, but it was one level. So you could undo a change and you could redo a change, but you couldn't undo two changes. Now you get essentially infinite undo redo. It also supports hardware accelerated rendering on Windows using Microsoft's direct write capability. Now, this means that the rendering is done in the graphic processor unit rather than the main CPU. Okay, so who cares? Well, one thing is, it does have a performance impact, a performance improvement. It's minor, but it can be noticeable in an intensive application. But the other thing that you get is much, much better rendering of fonts. Much better rendering. Some people can't notice it, like me. But other people who have, I guess, a more critical eye can very definitely notice the difference in font rendering using direct write. I'm going to be giving a presentation tomorrow morning, a whole presentation on Scintilla and our support of it. So if you're interested, please come, listen to the details. We have a calendar widget that we've improved in this release. We now have full support of all the capability of this calendar widget in Windows. That, for people who are working with calendars and with time pickers, is a definite improvement. In terms of our development tools, I'm going to talk about each of these. The Scintilla browsers and workspaces. All of our development text fields are supported by Scintilla by default. If you don't want to use Scintilla for some reason, you can turn it off. So it is selectable. One of the things that we get with Scintilla is a much more customizable color syntax highlighter and other styling options and features that I'll be talking about tomorrow. And in addition, of course, it's now available in workspaces and inspectors, where we didn't have this capability before. We have updated our VA Assist code completion capabilities to use Scintilla, and tomorrow I'll be talking about the new capabilities that you get there. But some of the things that you get are bracket highlighting for matching, some new shortcuts if you like using keyboard shortcuts. There's new stylizable margins to hold our breakpoints, which always have been in the margin. Line numbering, if you're somebody who likes line numbering, and code folding indicators. I'll show you tomorrow an example of that, but if you, for example, have methods that have large comment blocks followed by your code, it's sometimes convenient just to fold the comment block into one line so that you can see your code easier. Here's an example of some of the things that are new. Our smart highlighting will highlight, this is an association is the parameter. It'll highlight all references to an association in the body. Also, we have all tips, so we'll show you what the current value of a variable is in the debugger. These are all debugger examples. There's color in the debugger now, and there's code completion in the debugger work pane. These are all new features that I'll be talking more about tomorrow. So again, come to the presentation tomorrow. We've added new breakpoint support, one-shot breakpoint. It's a breakpoint that removes itself after it fires once. This can be especially important in callbacks because if you break in a callback, you can't resume with the breakpoint still there. So this makes it kind of convenient to break there. In terms of Monticello, we've made some minor improvements in our Monticello importer. For those of you who have not heard me talk about the Monticello importer before, this is a way of moving Monticello packages into VA Smalltalk, and we now give suggested version name that matches the version in Monticello, and we also copy the Monticello version information into our application notes record just for your cross-referencing information. People have said that they have trouble when they have multiple development images running, telling which window belongs to which image. So we've added a prefix on the window titles of all the windows associated with an image. You specify the short name that would be that prefix in the INI startup, and you can then more easily identify windows that belong to different images. We have a capability called cross-development that's used to build headless runtime applications and also used to build applications on one platform that run on a different platform. So for example, develop on Windows, deploy on Linux. That environment is built up dynamically based on cross-development features. And so we've added new cross-development features in this release to support Glorp and to support Seaside for headless packaging and cross-system deployment. So we have updated our Seaside support and done some other things in terms of web interfaces. For Seaside, we have ported new levels, the most current levels of probably 2 months ago. And this consists mainly of small bug fixes from our previous capabilities. One of the things people have told us in the past, because Seaside comes from a Monticello environment on Faro and Sweep, they have trouble sort of finding correspondence between what it is we're delivering and what it is they can see in a Faro image. So we're now tracking in our configuration maps, which are sort of the equivalent of Monticello configuration. We're tracking the Monticello configuration of Greece and configuration of Seaside that we ported from. So as you can see, these are these are the versions that we ported for version 8.6, so that you can backtrack to Monticello, to Faro, to see how our support matches what's available in the Faro environment. We also implemented HTTP servlet multipart forms. So this was driven mainly by the seaside upload functionality, which we didn't previously support. But it's useful in other environments, certainly also. But as I say, it was mainly driven by the need for seaside upload, and so this is a very busy example of what an inbound HTTP request would look like with the multipart form, and what it looks like once it's inside VA Smalltalk. So the seaside upload functionality now works with 8.6. In terms of database, we've made some currency updates for both DB2 and Glorp. For DB2, we've tested with DB2 10.5, which is the most current version of DB2, released by IBM, and it has passed our regression tests. For Glorp, we are now at the current level of Glorp. We sad to say, in the past have been a bit back level on 03.178. We are now at the current version, and these changes, in addition to the porting work that we did, these changes are really due to a lot of great work by Alan Knight, and I want to thank him for that. If you're here, I would thank you personally, but you can watch the video and get my thanks. We also have included what I'll call experimental host variable support. Host variables are something that will speed up database access. We call it experimental because we have a notion that we might have to change it. There are some edge cases that aren't working quite right, and so we've left it off by default. If you are interested in using Glorp with host variables, you can turn it on and see how it improves your performance. We've also made some minor but important error handling changes. As Glorp errors kind of filter up, first through Glorp, from the database errors, and then through whatever platform error handling is in place, a lot of the detailed information is lost. So the database may give you some very detailed information about an error, and by the time it's exposed to the user, it's very generic. So we've added optional logging of the low-level database exceptions, so that when you get one of these more generic exceptions in your Smalltalk program, you can go look at the log and see what actually caused the problem. And finally, if you're interested in Glorp, I encourage you to join Neil Ross on Wednesday for his talk on how and where in Glorp, where you can get more information about some of the tricks of Glorp. We've also done a lot of work on our installation, our product installation. Some people would say, gosh, why would you spend any time at all working on product installation? If it installs, fine. Well, you know, if you're a new user, the very first thing you see is the product installer. And if the product installer doesn't look good or doesn't work well, you're immediately turned off. And our product installer was pretty ancient. It worked pretty well, but it had certainly some places where it could be better. So we have completely replaced it with installshield on Windows, and we have added a new environments management tool, and I'll be talking about both of those in just a second. First, the installer. The installer is based on installshield. we have changed our delivery mechanism. We used to deliver 2 code packages, one of which included client code and documentation. The other one included our code repository. We've changed that, and now we have one package which includes both client and repository code, and the other package includes the locally installed documentation. So this was done because in talking to customers, we found that it's a small number of customers who actually install the documentation locally. Usually it's customers in big enterprises where, because of firewall considerations and lockdown of web access, they can't get to our online documentation on our website. Or it's smaller developers who want to run without web access. So by separating it out, we don't make the majority of customers download the documentation, which is fairly large, unless they really want it. The other thing this does is it allows us to do between release updates by just refreshing the documentation package. Okay. One of the things we got with this installer is that we're now Windows user access control compliant. This has been an issue in the past. We've had instructions in our install guide of what you have to do on Windows 7 to kind of move your files around to make them compliant with user access control. That's all gone now. We install everything where it belongs. And in order to support having read-write access files in a place that you can actually write to them, we've developed an environments utility that manages your working directories. Okay. So this is what your Windows startup menu looks like after installing. This used to say VA Smalltalk development image. Now it says VA Smalltalk environments, because it points to the environments utility which you launch to access your development images. And I'll be talking about environments in just a moment. By using InstallShield, we've also added the capability to repair an installation. We have worked with customers in the past who installed the product and then thought that in order to uninstall, all they had to do was delete the directories and the product was gone. Well, just about anything on Windows writes things into the registry and depends on those registry entries being correct. So just deleting the directories left the customers with unusable systems without doing some manual registry repair. So with InstallShield, we can repair the system by reinstalling all the binaries. And optionally obtaining a new copy of the code repository. We obviously don't want to automatically overlay the code repository because you might have added code to it. Now, environments. Environments is the new tool to manage your development environments, thus the name. It's available on all platforms, and on Unix we used to have a very simple command line utility called VA Setup that would make your local read-write copies of files. So this replaces that command line utility. It's got the ability to start an image, to modify settings associated with that image, to browse the contents of the directory where your image exists, get a fresh copy of the image, saving a backup of the old one, create a shortcut on the desktop if you like desktop shortcuts, and delete an environment, either leaving the actual files or deleting the files, option. So this is kind of what it looks like. This is the interface for creating a new environment. It gets a name. It's either a full or a basic install of the image. We have two different images. A basic one that's smaller, a full one that's larger and more complex. Server name, where the code repository exists, and manager name, the actual file location. These are, as you see, drop-down combos, so if you've done a few of these environments, you're able to drop down the combo and select different servers, and the contents of this field then will change based on the server you select, and it's also a drop-down combo if you have several managers on the same server. So that's kind of convenient. Optional items, I don't have a screen capture of this, but this allows you to set the short name that I showed you that goes in the title, and set other command line parameters that aren't supplied automatically. So if you have command line parameters to start up your image, you can supply them on the optional items screen. So once you've created an environment, you go to the view that's on the right here, which is a list of the environments. And as you can see, I've got 5 of them there. So when you select one of the environments, the icons for that environment pop up. This icon starts the environment. This icon modifies the parameters associated with that environment. This one browses the folder. Quite honestly, I don't remember what this one does. This one creates the shortcut on your desktop, and this one deletes it. You have icons up here. This is the tools icon, which will change the sort of the template that environments is working with to build these working directories. So you can either then access your development environment from the desktop shortcut that you can create from here, or from environments itself. Next, we've got new platforms that we're supporting. We're supporting Fedora 19, which is very new. Ubuntu 13.04, which is fairly new, and Windows 8.1. We've tested on the RTM version of Windows 8.1, released to manufacturing. So this ought to be very close to the golden release. So we're trying, as I've said in past conferences, we try to keep our platform support up to the current levels of the operating systems that are available when we ship a release. Okay, that's what's in 8.6, available today for download in evaluation versions, or if you have licenses for VA Smalltalk, in fully licensed versions. So that's what we've done, but that was last week. The question is, what are we doing next week? Besides trying to recover from being here on my part. So looking to the future. Future releases, this is a little bit different from in the past. We used to say about twice a year. We found that the customer uptake on new releases that come out twice a year isn't too good. It's just too often. So we're kind of moving back to about once a year. This gives us more development time because for every release there's a certain amount of kind of overhead to get the release out the door that is irreducible. So the ratio of actual development to release stuff is now going to be higher. As far as what we're looking at, we're actually going to do Unicode. We've started a little bit of it, and we're going to do it both in the image and in the VM. For the web interface, we're continuing to track Seaside. In the past, one of the impediments to using Seaside has been our lack of continuation support, even though you can build many applications without it. It would be more convenient to have it because then everything that they talk about in the Seaside book would work on VA Smalltalk, instead of some pages having caveats at the bottom that say, if you're running VA Smalltalk, you have to do it this way. The next thing, I should say, the things that you see on this list that are in bold are the things that we think are sort of the most likely candidates for our next release. It doesn't mean we're committed today to say this is what the next release is going to be, but these are the things that right at this point in time I think are the most likely candidates. My boss Mike, who's sitting back there, will look at these and go, oh, I don't know if I agree with that, but it's today. So when the next release comes out, you may or may not see these, but you will most likely see. Web services debugging. We recognize that our web services capability, while very full-functioned and very robust, when it breaks, it's really hard to debug. It's complex. So we have a project underway to try and improve the debugging capability for web services. I mentioned that we're working with the University of Chile, Alexander Bergal, on Rosal. It's not done yet, but it's underway. So announcements is one of the prerequisites for Rosal, and so that will come when Rosal comes. It's usable outside of Rosal, it's just that Rosal needs it. We will have full zip and support in all platforms. Right now we only have it on Windows, and it's there. It was originally put there to support the Monticello importer, but there are other places where it's very useful, so we're going to extend it. We'll be doing work on middleware on DB2 and Gore. We don't have any particular items that are at the top of the list, but we have several candidates, as you can see. We're working on the GUI look and feel, and one of the things that we want to do is provide support for PNG files, and also for alpha channel blending. These will be most likely in the next release because the code's more or less done. Right now, it only works on Windows because of the zip support. It only works on Windows. For those of you who use VA Smalltalk and put your file server on Unix, you know that there are some limitations there, both in terms of the file systems that we support and on the Linux environment, the size of the code repository is limited to 2 gigabytes. We are eliminating those 2 restrictions. We actually have the code done and have been using it internally for the last couple months, but we did not put it in 8.6 because we wanted to run it through more extensive testing. The code repository are kind of your crown jewels, and we don't want to mess it up. So we want to be absolutely sure that we haven't done anything that's going to cause repository corruptions. I talked about installation. We have Windows Installer now. We're moving to RPM on Unix, and that should be in the next release. And we have, this is really, really important to us. We have customers with large images who suffer significant delays during garbage collection, and we have customers who are increasingly looking at the need for 64-bit support. 64-bit support is not necessarily to get more memory. The other reason for it is that interface from Smalltalk to other products through DLLs. And these DLLs, because of the way Windows architecture works, have to be delivered in two different versions, 32-bit and 64-bit. So the other products, like databases, are becoming more and more reluctant to build 32-bit DLLs because the world's moving to 64-bit. So at some point, there will be no 32-bit DLLs available. And we need to have a 64-bit Smalltalk in place before that happens. These are other things we're looking at that are less interesting. How do you get VA Smalltalk? We want you all to have VA Smalltalk, so you can download a free evaluation copy. All you have to do is ask for it. We like it even better if somebody buys licenses, because then I can keep coming to the conference because there's money to pay my expenses. We sometimes make development builds available, and that's announced on our Google group. If you're a committer on an open source project, preferably something oriented toward VA Smalltalk, but there's nothing in the rules that says it has to be, you can get a paid-up license of VA Smalltalk. And finally, we have academic licenses for educational institutions. So we try and have a lot of different ways of getting the product out to people to try. Contact us. You have questions, you have support issues if you're a user, or you want to talk to me, send us email. We are very responsive. So, questions? I have about 5 minutes. Stefan.
Do you have ephemeron support?
I'm sorry?
Do you have ephemeron support in VA?
Ephemerals. No, we do not.
Because if you go to announcement, you have to pay attention to that.
Yeah, we don't need it for Rosal. So I guess I should say our announcement support may not be full function. We've ported probably 75% of the announcement framework. It's where we found out that that in a Faro image you can declare weak classes when you create the class, because our Monticello importer doesn't handle that. So that's one of the things that's on our list to look at for the next release. Thank you. Other questions? Yes, sir.
I have to ask, what about OS X support?
What about
OS X support?
OS X support? I've been coming to this conference for a number of years. I get that question almost every year, and my answer is the same almost every year. Sometimes it's a little wishy-washier, but the answer is we have no plans for OS X support. And that's not because we couldn't build a VM to run on OS X. It's because Cocoa is hard for us, because we support native interfaces. We don't have an emulated GUI layer. So we have to actually support Cocoa natively in VA Smalltalk to run there. Because we've kind of decided that if we do something like GTK on OS X, nobody would really be interested. Other questions? Okay, thank you very much. I will be here all week, so please catch me if you want to.